name is Izzy O'Sullivan. My presentation will be tackling the line of inquiry into what extent does the visual representation of identity operate as a brand commodity rather than a socio-political force. My key text is Gender Blur, How Non-Binary Identity Became a Brand by Alex V. Green, and my visual focus will be on The Substance, 2024 film. I'll be using the film's hyper-stylized transformation sequences to examine how identity itself becomes a branded commodity to be sold and detached from any real political struggle. It becomes a consumable product that's optimized for visibility. Although Green's argument specifically focuses on non-binary identity being used as a branding tool, it can also be applied to a wider contemporary context. People's identities become marketable images or symbols which are then sold back to them, devoid of any political position of what it truly means to live as a woman or non-binary. Green states, non-binary identity has become a brand, one that companies, advertisers, and influencers alike can take on and off at will, even while remaining largely uninvested in material political change. This is a poignant criticism of corporations which The Substance argues and visually exaggerates to an extreme. The film uses metaphor and visual language to illustrate what happens when identity is commodified, a full disposal of the self. My key visual analysis will focus on Elizabeth's gnarly first transformation into her better self. The lighting transitions from a harsh sterile white to a soft pink dimmed glow, while the camera pans in on glossy skin, her new perfect hair and idealized body. Before the audience gets to know Sue as a character, the director chooses to deliberately objectify her to further the point that she is a product. The experience of womanhood is sold back to Elizabeth as this perfect marketable product. Later in the film, her new identity is marketed and sold time and time again to TV networks and shareholders alike, which is important to note, all look the same. Sarah Barnett Wise's scholarly article on branding here in regards to both post-feminism and politics applies here. She argues that political identity cannot exist without corporate entities taking advantage of it. It goes hand in hand. She states, in the 21st century US, it is clear that social and political action, cultural resistance, and political identities are often attached to marketing practices, market incentives, and corporate profits. This supports Green's argument and links back to the identity issues violently portrayed in The Substance through younger Elizabeth's behaviour. She poses distinctly to adhere to the male gaze. She exists as a curated product of capitalism and acts as such. She interacts with the world around her as a product to be bought and sold. Her femininity is performative rather than a lived political standpoint of being a woman. The film emphasizes this point by the way that Sue moves. In the mirror scene, her physicality is expressed with purpose. Her gestures and facial expressions are optimized for clicks, much like any social media influencer. Her new identity becomes shaped by the same principles that Green criticizes in tech culture. In a world of tech giants, everything is optimized for clicks and profit, including our identities. Her new identity is devoid of any real humanity as she acts as a social media algorithm, meaning that she's a brand-friendly consumer ideal, a body that functions to perform femininity to the masses. The previous violence of the transformation sequence is mute here, much as is the violence of branding. It is unseen. Her skin tears and convulses in such a visceral manner, much like the branding of identity which takes advantage of an actual movement or political change. We are purely focused on idealism and shying away from the truth. When identity becomes a commodity, the body, Elizabeth's body, becomes disposable, which in turn erases her political position. Her real body, her true identity, is discarded and mistreated by the pressure of becoming an aesthetic. The scene takes place in a claustrophobic, lifeless bathroom and the framing places her central. The claustrophobia of the scene reinforces the idea that you cannot escape the brand identity that corporations have created for you and it will devour you, much like the events of the film. It uses body horror and gore to support this point. While the scene is an exaggeration of the contemporary pressures of conforming to branded identity, social media culture constantly reinforces this with surgery, Instagram face, or beauty filters that completely change your face. Bold glamour on TikTok is a filter that supports this. Online identities are created lacking compassion for those who might be affected by it, and tech platforms acknowledge this by their plan to ban filters for under 18s over mental health concerns. The Guardian argues that filters create pressure to adopt a polished physical appearance with negative emotional repercussions, which shows identity has to be continually discarded and refined into a perfect consumer-ready ideal. Another Guardian article shows us an image of an artificially polished skin and changed features. Light Green argues, contemporary pressures to be marketable are shaped by systems, not individuals, which further erases their original selves. The market benefits from branding identity. It provides insecurity and sells a solution to serve its interest. By invalidating non-binary or femininity, systems can then sell products to fix it, which further alienates a person, again referenced by Green, with entails little more than securing a nail polish sponsorship. In conclusion, the visual representation of identity operates as a brand commodity rather than a socio-political force, as identity is circulated and sold as a palatable visual brand. While Green argues identities are optimized for clickbait and profit, the substance exaggerates this through body horror and hyper-idealized feminine forms. Barnett Weiser shows politics becoming merged with the market, and The Guardian's articles and images show the dangers of identity being refined for performance. This cements the modern reality that identity becomes stolen for profit and often functions as a commodity rather than a socio-political force. Thank you, and here is my bibliography.